to Training Camp Live, presented by Honda. I'm Caroline Hendershot, alongside Eric Allen, and we have a special guest today on set with us. That is Jets legend Marty Lyons, joining us for the final week of Jets public practices of training camp. I can't believe it. We're almost at the end of August, coming up on our last preseason game here against the Eagles on Friday. Marty, thank you so much for joining us. How are you feeling about the new regime under Aaron Glenn?
Well, I think AG earned it. You know, you come in the league and you're a player for 15 years, and then you learn to be a scout. You know what you're looking for. Then you learn underneath Bill Parcells, you learn underneath Sean Payton, and then Dan Campbell. You know, he came back here. He's one of us. I think as a former player, we can actually say we're proud of him. Mm-hmm. He's worked his way up the ladder. He deserves it. He's a little bit old school. He's got these guys understanding that, yeah, it's training camp. Yeah, it's going to be hard, but underneath AG, it's going to be real hard.
Right, of course. A little tougher with the physical aspect that he's bringing to training camp. But let's talk about this last game that we saw this past Saturday. What were your initial thoughts on how the Jets played against the Giants on Saturday?
Well, I think AG said it perfectly. They were sloppy. He didn't point out anybody. He said, we were sloppy. We can't win like that. And I think his approach is not just for the players, it's for the coaches and everybody. Everybody, when he says we were sloppy, I think he's throwing himself into the ring.
Right.
He's not pointing at any players, but he also understands 17 weeks is a long season. You're going to have your ups and downs, and you've got to make sure that once you have a performance that you can build on, you can't have a drop-off.
Yes.
You can't go backwards.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I do think the Giants are going to be a tougher opponent this upcoming season than people are maybe expecting. But, EA, what did you think of the preseason game?
I would echo Marty's sentiments. Not only were the Jets sloppy, Aaron Glenn said they were undisciplined, and he's going to light a fire under their ass. I wouldn't anticipate they're going to come out today and have a crisp practice, because that message came through loud and clear. Yes, the Jets were missing a number of regulars in that game. You look at the defensive side of the ball. Quinnen Williams, of course, didn't suit up. Will McDonald sat out. You did not have Jermaine Johnson, who's continuing to his ramp up. Sauce Gardner not there in the defensive backfield, but for the Jets, it just wasn't up to the standard that Aaron Glenn is instilling here. And I think, I can't wait for today's practice, because every time these guys have been challenged by AG, they have come back and been ready from the opening bell.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that you have to do as a player, you got to challenge one another, and you got to trust one another, and you got to build that trust all the way from the practice field, take it into the locker room, let it build during the week, and then when it comes game time, everybody has to know their assignment. And you're right, EA, there's a drop-off from your starters to your second string. But those second-string guys are so important, the way that they rotate, especially on the defensive line. They're always going to rotate. They're going to keep those fresh legs in. So you can't have your starters be up here and your second-teamers there. They're all starters in my mind. If you're going to play 50% of the play, then you better understand, look yourself in the mirror and understand, I may not be in that starting lineup, but I'm a starter.
Yeah, and you want that drop-off from the first string to the second string to be as minimal as possible. I feel like all coaches across all sports feel that way. Now, let's talk about the quarterback position, because we haven't gotten your thoughts on quarterback Justin Fields, a mobile quarterback. What do you think of that and the dynamic that it brings to the offense?
Well, I think, number one, that's the way the game is played in the NFL now. You're with a single bat most of the time. Most of the time you don't have that fullback in there. He might be the H-back. But you need the mobility of the quarterback to drop back and keep everybody honest. And, Justin Fields has the legs. All he has to do is make sure that when he gets to a defender, he learns how to slide.
Right.
You don't want to take any unnecessary hits, but you also want to be able to deliver the ball. Throw it that 5-yard, that 7-yard out. And I think the offensive line, from what I've seen in the first two preseason games and in the joint practice, they're coming together as a unit.
I agree with that. I really like that second drive from the first team offense the other night, 12 plays, 10 of them on the ground, just one pass. With Fields, I think we got to keep in mind here that he's attempted 9 passes in preseason play. A lot of people are asking, hey, where are these vertical strikes? And he said, listen, in the defensive backfield, if they're playing depth and I take it underneath and we get an 8-yard gain, that's going to keep the sticks moving. And this offense is going to look different than what we've seen in the past, because Marty just articulated quite well. This guy has a different skill set than any quarterback who's ever played here for the Jets.
Right.
Yeah, you said it right. This is preseason. They're not going to show their whole hand. They're going to take it. They're going to go out there. They're going to pound the ball. Offensive linemen, that's what they like to do. They like to run block. And when you run block and then those guys start to come up on you, that's when you can come in with the play action. And that's where I think you're going to see Justin Fields this year. You know, get to the end zone, move the chains, have those long drives. But you can't hurt yourself with those penalties. And one thing that I like watching them during the preseason, in and out of the huddle.
Yes.
There's no walking back to the huddle. There's no take the play, walk back to the line of scrimmage. Everybody's pop, ready to go.
And I will say, on that note, we're looking at Justin Fields right now, but the reason he hasn't thrown a lot of passes because of the running backs. And before we get to them, I do have to let Jets fans at home know that you can get your New York Jets single game tickets now. Don't miss exciting matchups, division rivals, special giveaways, and more this season. Buy your tickets to cheer on the green and white at nyjets.com/tickets. Now, we just saw him, and him as in Justin Fields, hand off the ball to some of the running backs on the field. And this running back group, so deep, EA, what did you like from their production on the field on Saturday?
It was interesting. On that second drive, I believe the Jets had a 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 9. And they go to Braylon Allen, and he converted it on the ground. Listen, these backs, they all have a diversified skill set. Breece Hall running the ball, then you bring in Braylon Allen to the mix. Isaiah Davis right now, I don't think he'll be practicing. He's coming back from injury. But listen, these guys can not only run the ball between the tackles, they can get outside, and the Jets are going to take advantage, Marty, of these guys in the pass game.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, I like watching Braylon Allen run. He reminds me, if you go old school, of an Earl Campbell, a Christian Okoye. He's going to break through the line of scrimmage. He's going to look up, and he's going to see you getting prepared to make a tackle, and there's no doubt what he's going to do. He's going to try to run you over.
Oh, yeah.
And if he doesn't run you over the first time, he's going to try again. But Breece Hall, he's a different type of runner, and you know, so they have the depth. And if you look at the way Dan Campbell ran his offense out there in Detroit, rotating the fresh legs in the backfield, just wears down a defense.
Yes, yeah, most definitely. And I think they're taking that and all learning that new offensive scheme in stride and really excited about it from everything you hear from the players talking at the podium. Now, let's talk about a little bit of those position groups that have position battles at hand. So that's wide receiver 2, linebacker number 3, honestly, even quarterback 2 because of Tyrod Taylor having a little bit of a knee operation, I'll say. But what do you think about the wide receiver room? Obviously headed by Garrett Wilson. That depth, though, is there, and it's going to be a competitive room.
It really is, because you only have one more preseason game, and then you have evaluation that's going to take place Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then the final roster gets cut down to 53.
Right.
Plus you have the practice squad at 17. So I think for all the young players, you know, that are in there trying to make be a position player, you better be able to play special teams. That is going to be the key on whether you make the team or not, because special team, that's 1/3 of the game. And if you can be a special team player and then be a reserve wide receiver, it's a double bonus.
100%, and I think that's always you're looking for a player that can do more than just one thing.
Yeah, and speaking of more than one thing, you know Tanner Engstrand is going to move 5 around throughout the regular season. The Jets have such a big-time weapon at that wide receiver 1 position in Garrett Wilson, and I'm really excited to see how Engstrand uses him in game action when you're actually scheming up for opponents. But Caroline, you're right. You mentioned the receivers. Alan Lazard's dealing with the shoulder. We know Xavier Gibson sustained a shoulder injury against the Giants, but how about the play, the young guys? Arian Smith, he had an early drop. He comes back. He makes a couple key receptions there late in the first half before Nick Folk's field goal. Brandon Smith from Iowa, he was signed late in training camp last year, made a couple plays. Now he's more comfortable. And to Marty's point, Smith said, I talked to him after the game, he said, you know, for me to make this team, I have to do different things. And that means get involved in the blocking, as far as the run game is concerned, and also special teams. And how about Quentin Skinner the other day? He got involved in the past game, and he came down with that touchdown for Brady Cook.
Yeah, I think, when you look at the quarterback, you got Martinez and you got Cook. That's a battle. I hope that Tyrod Taylor can make it back. He's that unique type of player, 15 years in the league. He's bounced around. He's been a starter. That's the key. He's been a starter. He's winning in the NFL already. And you'd hate to see anybody this late in their career not get an opportunity to go out on the field one or two more times.
Right. I do think he will be back because from what we've heard from the coaching staff, that knee operation wasn't anything too big and too complicated. So hopefully we see him out on the field fairly soon. But Jets fans watching from home, I do have to remind you, Jets Game Day is better together. Bring a group of 6 or more to MetLife Stadium and take advantage of preferred pricing, access to on-field experiences, and more. To book, visit nyjets.com/groups or call 973-549-4590. All right, to round this out, now we haven't gotten to see Quinnen Williams yet really in full bore because he was out for a little bit with some soreness, I believe it was. Now, yes, so he's back in the mix. Now, what do you guys want to see from not only him, if he plays this weekend, but the rest of this defensive line group, who a lot of these characters aren't these big names, as Aaron Glenn said, but they're really impactful players.
Right, they are impactful. What they got to do is complement one another. That was what I was very fortunate to play alongside of Joe Klecko. You know what? He would look down at me, I'd look at him. I knew what he wanted me to do. That's the type of communication that you have to build. But it also goes, you have to build trust in one another.
Right.
And when you start rotating the players in, you have to know what you're capable of doing, what your teammate is capable of doing, what the play selection is, and then be able to read that offensive line and do what you're supposed to do. So it's a combination of all that, but you don't really have time to think. You just got to react while you're in there.
Yes, definitely. And not for nothing, but this defensive line group is going to be going up against an offensive line group that's coming off the Super Bowl. So they are a very talented group, this Eagles team. So I think it's going to be a true test on Friday.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how the Jets actually approach this third preseason game because, to your point, Caroline, days are running out here. You got 2 practices here. You play Friday night, and then the roster cut down is Tuesday, 4 p.m. Right now, there are 90 players out there behind us. You have to get down to 53. You can have a maximum of 16 players on your practice squad. And, oh, by the way, Darren Muji and his personnel staff are going to be scouring the waiver wire, and the Jets had the 7th overall pick in the draft, so they're up there quite high, too, in terms of that.
Yeah, and Caroline, I don't think you're going to see the Eagles starters play. I don't think that they're going to risk anybody going down. I think they're going to put their players out there that are second stringers or on the bubble.
Okay.
And they want to see what they can do against the Jets, whether they play their starters or not. I would anticipate, Justin Field playing a little bit. Okay. I don't know how much, but I think he, get back into a rhythm because there is that long period of time between the last preseason game and the season opener against the Steelers. So
right.
This would be another good opportunity for him to go against an opponent that he doesn't see every day.
Right. Yes, most definitely. I always do think it's interesting, that final preseason game, because the coach's philosophy on if starters are playing, how long they're playing, it always changes from coach to coach. So I think it will be interesting to see what we see on Friday night. Now, final question for both of you. I want to know a player in your mind that you want to see a big play from on Friday night. Now, not named Justin Fields.
There. I wasn't ready for that.
Putting you on the spot. I'm putting you both on the spot. Not named Justin Fields.
82, Arian Smith. I think his development is continuing. It's going to be very critical for this Jets offense because he changes the dynamic out there. When he's out there on the field, you have to respect that speed. And what are you going to do with your safeties? Because you have a numbers problem against Justin Fields. Now, if you put 82 out there and he gets more reps, you can't crowd that box because you're going to have to play back and respect that speed. So I want him to continue to develop within this offense. We've seen him take steps, and I'll really be watching him this week, probably catching passes mostly from Brady Cook and Adrian Martinez.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the other side of the ball. The guy that I want to see is number 72, Michael Clemens. And, you know, Michael Clemens has so much talent. His motor runs and runs and runs. The problem is sometimes he's got a short fuse, and people can talk back and forth and trash talk, and next thing you know, Michael Clemens forgets who he is. I want to see him utilize his talent. I want to see him utilize his speed, and I want to see him utilize his strength. And I think that he can make a difference. All he's got to do is understand all three of the talents that you have. Calm yourself down a little bit. Let your play do the talking. I remember watching the Green Bay game at home on TV, and, you know, he started that game, and I went, oh, wow, how long will it take Michael Clemens before a fuse is lit? I think it was one play. And, you know, he's such a talented athlete, such a talented football player. I think if he can control it, he can really take himself to the next level.
Yeah, and Steve Wilks, defensive coordinator, gave Michael Clemens a big shout-out at the beginning of camp, saying that he was having a really good camp, and that was early on. So he's continued to develop, and hopefully he continues to develop even through the season. That's all from us today for right now. But if you can't make it out to One Jets Drive tomorrow for the final public practice from the green and white, make sure you are tuning in to Jets Training Camp Live. That will be kicking off again at 12:45. You don't want to miss it. Eagles on Friday night. We will see you tomorrow.